Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Quianna Canada. Welcome back to Quianna's show. This evening, we are going to be discussing three legal eagles, and all three legal eagles are Black Americans. So we are continuing this sort of series for Black History Month, and I want to speak about this without enjambment because I want us to reflect deeply on the life work of Thurgood Marshall, Derrick A. Bell, and Johnnie Cochran. Johnnie Cochran, I'm going to start with Thurgood Marshall, who was born in 1908 but passed in 1993. Marshall was born in Maryland, and Marshall sought to attend the University of Maryland Law School, but he was rejected because he wasn't white. And after that, he applied at Howard University, enrolled and was accepted and earned a law degree in 1933. It's important to understand that Marshall went on to become a civil rights lawyer. He worked at the NAACP, and one of the most notable cases was Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka. That was, of course, a landmark civil rights case that desegregated schools in the United States of America. So Marshall had a promising career in the Court of Appeals, but also after that, after he worked in the Court of Appeals, he served on the U.S. Supreme Court between 1967 and 1991. And Marshall left just a very important legacy for Black Americans, created many precedents that really do solidify our rights, or what's left of our rights in the United States. We do understand that right now in the United States, a lot of the rights of Black Americans is being overturned by the current administration, and I think some people don't understand that how it first starts off is the dismantling of rights of other groups and then working its way toward the dismantling of our own rights. And so I think we need to be cognizant that that is happening in the United States and find a way to really reverse what is happening and pay close attention to it. The second person that I really want to bring to you today, who is a Black American lawyer, is Derrick A. Bell. Bell was born in 1930 and passed away in 2011. He was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and attended the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Pittsburgh. Bell also worked for the NAACP in the 1950s, and like Marshall, he was instrumental in desegregating schools and had much to do with following on that legacy of Brown versus the Board of Education, like ensuring that the civil rights of Black Americans remain protected, and that precedents like that continue to appear in the court where our rights were being overturned or rolled back. Another case is that or an interesting fact about Bell was that he spearheaded the fight for James Meredith. And if you remember, James Meredith sought to attend the University of Mississippi and to secure admission in that school. And there was a lot of controversy during that time about that. Bell was the first Black tenured law professor at Harvard University. That is a very interesting fact that some people don't know, but he was. And what I like most about Bell is that he wrote a paper called Remembrance of Racism Past, the Civil Rights Decline. And in this paper, Bell made a number of claims about discrimination law's ability to respond to racism. And the focus was on the way in which power determines the ability and willingness of legal and political institutions to respond to racism. He also argued race interacts with other categories such as gender and other protected characteristics, and essentially build on this idea of intersectional discrimination. As I mentioned in multiple videos, Kimberly Crenshaw, she speaks about intersectionality and describes this as a person being in the center of a four-way lane. So in the center of a street, and then there's 4 lanes, and the person could be hit in all directions from being hit in all directions due to a protected characteristic. So a person can be hit in one direction because they are Black American, and this is not literally but figuratively, and in some instances it could be literally, which in essence could be a hate crime. But how I'm talking about this now is just really figuratively. So being hit by racism, or being hit by gender discrimination, being hit by it's not racial discrimination, but like a disability discrimination, or being hit by age discrimination. So as you can see, like the person can be hit by multiple kinds of discrimination touching upon protected characteristics. What I like most about Bell is that he taught at multiple law schools, and I don't think that there is enough time to really go into his tenure at these law schools and the legacy of each and what he taught at each. I might do that in a different video, but it's important to understand that he did teach at multiple law schools and taught critical race theory, and was sort of one of the professors in these law schools that developed critical race theory. And so we have Bell to thank for his amazing work and the legacy that he has created for Black Americans to build on. Now we come to Johnnie Cochran, and I think that most people understand who Johnnie Cochran is or heard about Johnnie Cochran. Johnnie Cochran was born in 1937 and passed away in 2005. He was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, and obtained a Juris Doctor from Loyola Law School in 1962. He was inspired by Thurgood Marshall. So as you can see, all of these men are linked together, right? So Thurgood Marshall linked to Derrick A. Bell. Derrick A. Bell sort of linked to Johnnie Cochran. And what links them is not necessarily that they knew each other, because of course they didn't, but what is linking them is law, their love for law, going to law school, and the inspiration behind the landmark case of Brown versus Board of Education. Johnnie Cochran was inspired by that case, and I think that he sought to emulate or follow in the footsteps of Thurgood Marshall. And as we know, that Johnnie Cochran would go on to litigate a large number of high-profile police brutality cases. This was the bread and butter of Johnnie Cochran, because police brutality was such a huge problem. There was an epidemic of police brutality within the United States, and that was happening every single day. And there was an influencer that came on television, not came on television, but that I seen on YouTube, who said that there was a time where day in and day out, we always seen on the news was black, unarmed black Americans being extrajudicially executed in the United States. And during this time where Cochran was taking these cases, I think that really planted the precedent that police brutality was an insidious practice. But I think what Cochran is best known for is representing O.J. Simpson. I think that this was probably the case that everybody knew about, because this case was publicized across the media, and it was such a big case. Of course, when I was in high school, this was like a very, very big case. And so it's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that Johnnie Cochran too leaves an important legacy for us to build on. Johnnie Cochran was a formidable attorney. He was not to be played with at all. He was very, very powerful and intelligent, astute, just remarkable in all respects, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it's important for me to say that none of these men were doctrinaires. And what do I mean by that? So, I think that they really considered and thought deeply about the practical considerations of the cases that they took, and the practical considerations of their legal work. And as you know, because of considering this practically, they left a seismic legacy on the world. I want us to really think about, to reiterate, we should think deeply about these powerful attorneys in the United States, these Black American attorneys, because they really did do a lot to change history around for us. Now, don't get me wrong, that right now the United States is still struggling. There's still problems happening within the United States, and some of these rulings that Thurgood Marshall, Derrick A, as well as Johnnie Cochran put into place is being rolled back. The protections that they brought and solidified are being rolled back by conservatives and the current administration. But that does not change the fact that these three men were matadors in the courtroom. And I think that that is what we should part with, is their amazing legacy, the oratory of the three, the powerful speeches in the court that they gave, and asking ourselves, how can we as Black Americans build on this legacy? Asking ourselves how we as Black Americans can contribute to it. Some social media influencers have stated that there needs to be more Black American lawyers, and I agree. That's something that I've tried to do with my life, but of course I have Irish American cyber hackers and information gathering agencies blocking my path to a legal career because they don't like the fact that I am on an international protection application, because they're blinded to the fact that Black Americans too can be victims. In a Black American in the international protection system, what that does is it makes them face the fact that there is racism in the world happening in the global north. And I think that that is just not a reality that the global north wants to really admit. Now, do they admit it? On the surface level they do, but I don't think that they internalize it. And reflecting on these three men, Thurgood Marshall, Derrick A, as well as Johnnie Cochran, like, it makes me all the more want to continue to pursue law, to pursue a career in law, to pursue my civil suit against Queen's University Belfast, NISO's Group Limited, and the Police Service of Northern Ireland. Because I know that my rights were violated because of my being a Black American seeking to research and publish about an area that has not been thoroughly researched. There's been a lacuna, or there is a lacuna in the research when it comes to transnational repression. And my seeking to fill that lacuna and to add to the research was a threat to informational hegemony within the global north. And so I am going to continue to pursue my civil suit against these three public officials, which is the Queen's University Belfast, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, and NISO's, because they would have not done that to me had I been Irish in the university. They would have not done that to me had I been a white American in the university. They done it to me because they knew that I was an isolated Black American, and they knew by studying and gathering information on my background and family dynamics and my being the only Black American in Belfast in the international protection process, that it would be difficult for me to go up against them. And that is the reason why they did it. And that is the reason all the more why they should be stopped. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget to follow me on Facebook. I will link my Facebook account in the description box below. And you can search for my name by searching for Quianna Canada on Facebook. Right now, I only have 13 followers. I've had my Facebook account for nearly 2 years, and that number is substantially owed to the very fact that Irish American information gathering agencies and their cyber hackers are keeping me from being able to collect more followers and to move up this ladder of social mobility, essentially. And so if you come across my profile, I am asking that you follow me if you find that this content is important to you, and follow me on YouTube. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to talk to you next time. Bye-bye.